Have you ever felt a fear that made no sense, like a sudden panic around deep water, though you've never had a near drowning experience? Or maybe there's a sadness in you that doesn't seem to belong to your story. A kind of grief you can't explain, like a shadow that's been with you for as long as you can remember. What if that fear, that pain, didn't start in this lifetime? We like to think of our lives as beginning at birth, shaped by childhood and molded by experience. But sometimes the scars we carry run deeper than this one trip around the sun. What if the roots of our wounds stretch back across lifetimes, woven into the soul, imprinted onto our energetic being? It's an idea as old as time, yet as personal as the quiet ache you feel when you wake up from a dream you can't quite shake. Some people call it past life trauma, others speak of soul memory, and while modern science might not have the language for it just yet, we're beginning to explore the strange spaces where memory, energy, and consciousness blur. This is not just about the mystical, it's about understanding why we feel what we feel, why we fall into certain patterns, why we meet some people and instantly feel a connection or a fear. So today we're going to journey into the mysterious world of past life trauma, not to chase ghosts, but to understand the echoes they may have left behind and how they might be affecting your life right now. Because what if healing doesn't always begin with the mind? What if it begins with remembering? Let's imagine something radical but not unfamiliar to mystics, seers, or even certain branches of quantum science. What if your soul remembers everything? Not just the events of this life, but everything your soul has ever touched. Every heartbreak, every loss, every betrayal, every vow you swore under pain or passion. What if some part of you beyond your conscious mind is still carrying those echoes? We call this soul memory. It's not held in the brain like a file in a cabinet. It's deeper, subtle, layered. It's stored in the very energy that animates you. Now, here's where science starts to catch up with spirit. Modern epigenetics shows us that trauma doesn't just live in the mind, it lives in the body. Studies on descendants of trauma survivors, such as Holocaust survivors or children born to people who lived through famine, show patterns in stress response, anxiety, and even physical disease that seem to pass through generations. If trauma can be passed down through DNA, what if it can also pass through the soul? Some spiritual teachings suggest that just like our cells carry genetic memory, our energetic field, our aura or light body, holds an imprint of past experiences. These imprints can cross lifetimes, carrying unresolved pain, karmic patterns, or unhealed emotional wounds. Think of it like an energetic scar. You may not remember how you got it, but it still tingles when triggered. The Akashic Records, a term that pops up in Theosophy, Hindu mysticism, and even New Age thought, describe a kind of cosmic database, a field of information where every thought, word, and deed across time is recorded. Imagine it as the soul's internet, except here nothing is ever truly deleted. Sometimes when people access deep meditative states or undergo hypnosis, they tap into what feels like a memory, not their own, yet strangely familiar, scenes, names, places they've never visited in this life, but they come with emotion. They come with a sense of knowing. This is where the idea of Akashic echoes comes in. An echo by nature is a repetition. It's not the original sound, but it carries its shape. Akashic echoes are soul memories that ripple into the present. They might show up as irrational fears, mysterious talents, strange aversions, or emotions that arrive without warning or context. Sometimes it's subtle, a child who has nightmares of war, even though they've never seen violent films. A person with a crippling fear of being trapped who's never had a traumatic experience with confinement. Or someone who has an instant magnetic bond with a stranger, like they've known them forever. Sometimes it's heavier, lifelong struggles with shame, guilt, or unworthiness that therapy can't fully explain. These might be more than emotional patterns, they could be the residue of soul-level wounds. Now, you don't need to believe in reincarnation to consider this. You only need to recognize that you are more than your conscious thoughts. Your body holds memory, your energy holds memory. Even your nervous system remembers things your mind has long forgotten. The soul is no different. The idea of past life trauma isn't about blame. It's not about saying, this is just how I am because of something I did in another life. It's about curiosity and compassion. It's about asking, what if the pain I carry isn't a flaw, but a message? A message from the past, asking to be heard in the present. If we think of the soul like a traveler, then each life is a chapter in a much longer story. And like any traveler, sometimes the baggage doesn't get checked at the gate. It gets brought along, quietly shaping how we love, how we fear, how we protect ourselves. But there's power in remembering. Even a glimpse of where the wound began can shift something inside you. It's like giving context to a lifelong ache. Not so you can dwell in it, but so you can finally free yourself from it. Because here's the truth, energy never dies, but it can be transformed. And when you understand your soul memory, not just through logic, but through felt experience, you start to see your struggles differently, not as random suffering, but as part of a much larger pattern, one that you now have the power to change. But before you can transform anything, you have to recognize it, and that's where things get interesting. Because past life trauma doesn't always knock on your door with a clear label. It often whispers, it hides in your reactions. It cloaks itself as just the way I am. So, how do you know if what you're feeling might be rooted in something deeper, something beyond this lifetime? Let's start with the most common clue, repeating patterns. Do you find yourself stuck in the same cycles even when you're consciously trying to break free? Maybe it's choosing emotionally unavailable partners again and again, or walking away from success just as things are about to take off. Perhaps it's an ongoing fear of abandonment even when no one is leaving. These patterns aren't just habits, they may be energetic loops, unresolved karmic themes, playing out across time. Your soul may be recreating scenarios that feel familiar because they're tied to a wound it still carries. Not as punishment, but as an invitation. Here's your chance to heal what you couldn't before. Another major sign, people. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant connection so deep it feels like it couldn't possibly come from just a few minutes of conversation? Or maybe it's the opposite. You meet someone and your body reacts like they're a threat, even if they've done nothing wrong. Your heart races, your stomach clenches, you feel danger, and you don't know why. These are what some call karmic relationships. They often bring intense feelings, love, fear, loyalty, anger, because there's unfinished business between your souls. Sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's painful, but almost always it's familiar. You might also see signs in your emotional responses, especially when they're out of proportion to the situation. For example, someone gives you gentle criticism and you feel crushed, like your very existence has been rejected. Or you see images of a particular time in history and feel waves of grief or panic. These responses can be rooted in trauma your conscious mind doesn't understand, but your soul remembers. Phobias are another major clue. Many people carry irrational fears with no origin in their current life. Fears of fire, drowning, falling, being buried alive, or even public execution. These aren't always psychological anomalies. They can be cellular echoes of how a past life ended. Dreams too can carry messages, especially the vivid ones, the ones that linger for days. You might dream of being in a different body, in a different time, with a different name, but the emotions are yours. Those dreams can be fragments of memory surfacing while the conscious mind is asleep. Children are often the most natural carriers of these memories. Many young children speak of past lives with shocking detail, names, places, causes of death, only to forget them as they grow older. Why? Because the veil between lifetimes is thinner in early childhood. As they adapt to this life, that door often closes, but not always completely. Sometimes the memories resurface later in life through flashbacks, strong déjà vu, or during trauma-triggered moments when the nervous system remembers more than the mind does. Then there's the strange pull you might feel towards certain cultures, time periods, or spiritual traditions, ones that make you feel at home, even if you've never studied or traveled there. This isn't just aesthetic preference, it could be soul recognition. Some people feel a deep calling to a place they've never visited. Others are drawn to ancient languages, sacred symbols, or rituals they somehow know. These attractions might be the soul's way of reconnecting to parts of its long, winding journey. Even the body can reflect past life imprints. Certain physical ailments, especially chronic ones with no clear medical explanation, are sometimes viewed as manifestations of energetic trauma. For example, persistent throat issues might reflect a past life execution by hanging or strangulation. Back pain might come from carrying burdens, literal or symbolic, that weren't yours to carry. None of this is meant to scare you, quite the opposite. Recognizing these signs isn't about dramatizing your life. It's about illuminating it. It's about seeing the strange and subtle ways your soul is trying to bring old pain into the light so it can finally let go. Because once you begin to spot the patterns, you stop being owned by them. You begin to see that your fears aren't random, your emotions have roots, your wounds have stories, and you are not broken. You're remembering. You're awakening to the possibility that your life is part of something far larger than you ever imagined. A soul journey, a karmic mission, a sacred dance across time. And once you see the signs, the next question becomes, why did I choose to carry this? It's a powerful question, and at first it might sound unfair. Who would choose pain? Who would choose fear, heartache, or cycles of self-sabotage? But what if your soul isn't just here to survive? What if it's here to transform? Spiritual traditions across the world, Hinduism, Buddhism, indigenous teachings, and modern metaphysics all suggest that we, as souls, choose the broad strokes of our life's experiences before we incarnate. This doesn't mean every detail is scripted, but it does mean that your soul may have chosen certain wounds, certain families, certain challenges, not to suffer but to evolve. In this view, trauma is not a punishment, it's a contract. A soul-level agreement to carry and heal something not only for yourself, but for others too. These are called soul contracts. Imagine meeting with your soul group, a constellation of other souls you've traveled with across lifetimes. Before you're born, you agree to help each other grow. One agrees to be your best friend, another your parent, another perhaps your greatest antagonist. These roles aren't always comfortable, but they're meaningful. And in these agreements, you might also choose to carry certain traumas, not because you deserve to suffer, but because you have the strength to transmute them, to take the lead of pain and turn it into the gold of wisdom, empathy, and liberation. You're not here to be a victim of your story. You're here to be the alchemist of your lineage. This brings us to another sacred concept, ancestral healing. Sometimes the pain you carry isn't just from your past lives, it's from your bloodline, generational trauma, emotional patterns, cultural wounds. They live in families like unseen spirits. Maybe you were born into a lineage that has carried fear, silence, shame, or abuse for centuries. You may be the first one strong enough to say, "It ends with me." And your soul chose that role, not out of martyrdom, but out of mission. This is where past life trauma and ancestral trauma often overlap. You might find yourself dealing with patterns that repeat across lifetimes and generations, and it can feel overwhelming, like you're carrying more than one lifetime's worth of emotion, but that's because you are, and still you're the one who can transform it. It's important to know, carrying past life trauma doesn't mean you failed to heal it before. It means you now have new tools, new awareness, and a new strength to do what couldn't be done back then. What seemed impossible in another era, culture, or identity might be fully possible now through you. In this way, your trauma becomes sacred. It becomes a teacher. Because carrying it doesn't mean being crushed by it. It means working with it, like a sculptor working with stone, slowly shaping pain into purpose. There's also a concept called the service soul, the idea that some souls incarnate, not primarily for personal gain, but to assist in the healing and awakening of the collective. If that resonates with you, if you've always felt older than your age, drawn to helping others, or like you were born to break the cycle, you may be one of them. Service souls often carry heavier emotional burdens because they're equipped to hold the energy of healing. Not because they're better, but because they've done the inner work before. Their soul memory contains more tools, more depth, and so they step into families, communities, or lifetimes that need that wisdom. Of course, this doesn't mean you have to stay strong or suffer in silence. Quite the opposite. Recognizing your role doesn't mean you tolerate abuse or remain in pain. It means you see your trauma with new eyes, not as something to fear or hide from, but as something to understand, process, and ultimately release. Because here's the truth, you chose to carry it, but you also chose the moment when you would let it go. That moment can be now, not by denying the past, but by honoring it, listening to it, healing it through conscious choice, self-compassion, and spiritual maturity. You're not here to relive the same story over and over again. You're here to rewrite it, to turn pain into power, to turn echoes into evolution. And when you accept that you are not a victim of your past, but the author of your present, that's when the healing truly begins. Because no matter where the trauma began, this life is where the pattern ends. So, what do you do when you realize the wound you carry isn't just yours? You heal it, not just for yourself, but for every version of you who couldn't. Karmic echoes don't demand perfection, they ask for presence. They ask for your willingness to sit with the discomfort, trace its roots, and choose a new response. Healing doesn't always mean remembering every detail of a past life. Sometimes memory isn't required at all, just the intention to release what no longer serves you. One of the most powerful tools for healing is past life regression. Through guided meditation or hypnotherapy, you can access hidden memories stored in the subconscious mind. People often report vivid experiences, a lifetime in another era, a moment of trauma, or even a death that still echoes emotionally. But the point isn't just to witness, it's to bring compassion into what was once fragmented. Another gateway is forgiveness, not just of others, but of yourself. Whether you remember what happened or not, the act of letting go can shift everything. You don't need full understanding to forgive, you just need willingness. Because forgiveness is less about condoning the past and more about liberating your future. And then comes the most important step, conscious choice. You get to choose new behavior, new beliefs, new energy. Every time you break a pattern, you're not just healing your own life, you're interrupting a karmic loop that could have gone on for generations. Closure doesn't always come with answers, it comes with alignment, with the decision to treat yourself with tenderness, to move forward with awareness, to stop repeating a cycle simply because it feels familiar. You are not bound by the pain you inherited. You are the one who gets to say, "It ends with me." And when you make that choice from the heart, from the soul, you don't just close a chapter, you close a lifetime. This life is where the pattern ends. Not because everything has suddenly become easy, but because you have chosen to become conscious. Conscious of your soul's history, conscious of the energies you carry, and most importantly, conscious of your power to choose differently. Cosmic integration isn't about erasing the past, it's about weaving it into your present with grace. It's understanding that the pain you've felt, the fears you've carried, and the cycles you've repeated are not signs of weakness. They're markers of the soul's depth, proof that you've lived, that you've loved, that you've endured more than one lifetime of experience. But now, you get to take all those scattered pieces, those karmic echoes, soul contracts, inherited wounds, and bring them into alignment. You integrate by remembering you are not just the healed, you are also the healer. You are not just the seeker, but the source. You've done the work to recognize the signs. You've honored the reasons why you carried the weight. You've taken the brave steps to heal what once seemed unhealable. Now you step into liberation, because this moment, this lifetime, it's not random. It's a turning point in your soul's evolution. You're here not just to survive your story, but to rewrite the ending. And through your awareness, your compassion, your choices, you create ripples across time, across generations, across dimensions. You are a soul in a body, yes, but you are also a fragment of the cosmos waking up to itself. And when you integrate your past, you don't just find peace, you find purpose. So take a deep breath. Feel the gravity of the journey you've walked, not just in this life, but through all the lives that brought you here. And now speak these words inwardly if they resonate. I honor the pain that shaped me. I bless the soul that carried it. And I now choose peace, love, and liberation. This is where the pattern ends. This is where I begin again. If this resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. What patterns are you ready to release? What soul story are you rewriting? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your journey. And if you're drawn to more explorations of consciousness, healing, and the unseen threads that connect us, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, keep listening inward. The answers you seek may already be echoing from within.